Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I'm Gary, your host. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. So this time, I have a little look at a Fistful of Korak, son of Tarzan. Yeah, I've done several Tarzan episodes here lately, highlighting mostly books that I've picked up in the last couple of years and haven't got put into my collection and stuff. Well, the same goes for the Korak books. Some of them wind up being duplicates, others are upgrades and what have you. And some I got because I wasn't sure if I had them or not. And before we get into that, I was going to tell you, because I did that Tarzan one a couple days ago, and I forgot to mention that. At this moment, it's not hard and fast or anything, but I was planning on doing a live stream. That would be the second second Wednesday of February, which would be February 12th at 6:15 p.m. Mountain Time. I was going to do a live stream, and I'll post something beforehand when I'm more sure that I'm going to be able to do it. And that was going to be about Tarzan of the comic strips. So okay. So here we have Korak, son of Tarzan, and of course, Korak obviously is the son of Tarzan. The title started with Gold Key, when somewhere along the line they decided to take Boy from the Tarzan comic books, who was for decades was about 10, suddenly make him 16, and he wanted to be stopped calling Boy, and he took the name Korak, just like in the book. Of course, in the book The Son of Tarzan, he was Jack Clayton, who never called Boy, and he took the name Korak when he ran away from home to take a captive ape back into the wild, and got lost, and then was raised by the apes the rest of the way, and he took the name Korak himself. And of course, in the book, he was always he grew up to young adulthood, but was probably older than 16 because he got married right at the end of it. And Gold Key, even though they were already having their Korak titles, had done an adaptation of the Son of Tarzan for the comics, in the Tarzan comic, and it was noticeably different from their version of Korak in the regular ongoing Korak. But they never updated that Korak to that. They always just call because they still had continuity elements from the older Tarzan stories. But there we go. I babbled enough on that. So there's Korak, son of Tarzan. This is number 16 from 1967, a 12 center. Of course, has a great George Wilson painted cover on it. This is pretty rough, and I think no, it's not. This isn't the one that's got the cover detached, but you can see it's fairly rough here. But it's it's great cover painting. And the interior art, of course, is written by Gaylord Dubois. He wrote all those things, and with art by Warren Tufts, who I know nothing about at the moment. I think he did. Did he do Mabu the Jungle Boy backup? I'm betting he did, but I'm not positive. I'd have to look it up. But his style here looks really resembles Dan Spiegel, and I'm not sure whether he was filling in for Dan Spiegel or this is 67. This would have been shortly after Russ Manning left the title to do Tarzan, and because it was his first, Russ Manning's first, was the first regular artist on the Korak title, and then moved over to Tarzan when Jesse Marsh left just before he passed away, and then Dan Spiegel took over. But this is in interim. I don't know how many he did. This is a fine artist, just not as appealing on either way as appealing as either Russ Manning or Dan Spiegel. But that's fine. He's a perfectly fine artist, and quite capable. Just not quite as appealing to our eye. Yeah. And then, perilous in the lagoon for the sunken boat. This must be a one of those lagoons near the sea that might be fed by a river and connected to the ocean for allow bull sharks, because bull sharks are quite frequently seen up freshwater rivers. They're one of the few fish that can exist in both fresh and salt water. Animals of Africa. And it has a backup here of Mabu, the Jungle Boy. Yeah, I think that is the same artist here. Some good stuff. Then we have, which one was this? That was 16. I think I'm thinking this is what, 34, 32. Korak Son of Tarzan, 32. Still a great George Wilson cover. Here's the store stamp when it was sold or put on the stand. October 18th, 1969. This is number 63. Here we have Dan Spiegel. I just love Dan Spiegel's work. And of course, Dan Spiegel was the regular and only artist on Space Family Robinson Lost in Space for what was it, 17, 18 years or more, was it? Yeah. And here his Korak looks a little older, more mature than the others. Like when Russ Manning was doing, he looked younger. Of course, he was just supposed to be just 16, and he may have aged up a little bit, but it's fine, excellent work. Of course, Dan Spiegel did so much stuff. Even Hopalong Cassidy comic strip in the 50s, and so much stuff at Dell and Gold Key, and then later at DC and at what was it? Was it First? I think it was at First Comics, and did some Disney stuff as well. Anything that required a realistic stylization. Okay, and then this one is I've completely forgotten. This is what, 35, 37, 30. This one's 37. It's $15, 15-cent cover price. This is in really good shape. Gorgo and his herd respond to the jungle call as Korak challenges the wrath of the Mola. And another fine cover painting, George Wilson. And still more Dan Spiegel. There's a white Cape Buffalo. And fine stuff. Korak always helping people, and I sometimes I liked the Korak better than the Tarzan book, but I love them both. Here's Mabu the Jungle Boy. I'd like to see just reprints of just the backup stories from these. Then we jump to 1972, issue 46, DC's first issue of Korak, the Son of Tarzan. They, like as with Tarzan, they continued the numbering system from Gold Key, and these were both the DC got the license, and in just months, last time they finished, and just a few months later, DC's first issue came out. And of course, the same was with Korak, Son of Tarzan. And of course, this is 52 big pages for 25 cents, just like the first issue of Tarzan was. And Joe Kubert was the editor, and of course he was the writer and artist on the Tarzan titles, but he was the editor of Korak, Edgar Rice Burroughs, and had two backup stories also from Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff, Pellucidar and Carson of Venus. And of course Joe Kubert did the covers, and some great covers they were, with the interior art. This is I could say who wrote this. Len Wein wrote this first story, and they were initially they were pretty much carrying on the same kind of stories, except just a little more grim, a bit more gritty than the Gold Key stuff, but that kind of changed a little bit as far as the type of stories. And it's Frank Thorne doing the artwork for the first several issues here. And this was actually what first introduced me to Frank Thorne, at least stylistic, to be aware of his work. Although I undoubtedly had seen his stuff in some of the other some of the westerns and other stuff that he did, but this is what caught my attention. And this is also probably the first time I ever saw an autogyro, and I didn't know what that was at the time, because I was 11, 12 years old, and I didn't know what an autogyro was. And I think it was probably Doc Savage was the second time I ever saw an autogyro. But of course, then I learned more about him. The autogyro was a precursor to the helicopter, because and was not that stable. They never built very many of them, and so they weren't very prolific. And because they were trying to develop a helicopter type aircraft, and before the actual helicopter, when they learned about learned that they needed the upright, the vertical rotor to help stabilize it. Otherwise, it just wants to spin. So here was the crashing of the autogyro. Oh, great stuff. Years before, he had Frank Thorne had worked on The Mighty Samson at Gold Key. It's really great stuff. And this was just shortly before he started on Red Sonja at Marvel. Then we get the Carson of Venus, still written by Len Wein, with Mike Kaluta as the art. The very first story, and adapting the very first first book of Lost on Venus. Then we have still written by Len Wein, but this is with art by Alan Weiss, Pellucidar, at the Earth's Core, which you might be familiar with from one of the 45, 46, 47-year-old movies now from American International. Some cool stuff. I love those. Then issue number 51, and it's still carrying on. This was. It doesn't say who the writer was, but they had still with Frank Thorne as the artist. So this is several issues later, and then they kind of went back and they started adapting the Son of Tarzan book, and again done by Frank Thorne. But instead of doing the entire thing, they latched onto the concept of Korak always in pursuit of Miriam, who has been taken from him. He catches up once in a while, and that's what this story is, and it leads him into all kinds of fanciful, bizarre and adventures. And Frank Thorne is just wonderful in this stuff. Still having the Mike Kaluta, Carson of Venus doing the backup stories, but they no longer had the Pellucidar backup story here. That's issue 51. Ooh, I'm going to take it way too long. This is issue 53, still with the Joe Kubert cover, but the interior art has changed to Murphy Anderson, and it was written by Robert Kanigher from the War Comics. And this is, this time it was kind of unusual to see much in the way of Murphy Anderson doing pencils. This is pencils and inks, because he was this time mostly saw him doing inking other people's art, pencils, especially like Kurt Swan on the Superman titles, and they were the best art team for the Superman title as far as I was concerned. And just before this, he had been doing the backup, the John Carter of Mars backup story for a few issues that was in the Tarzan title. And it's just such beautiful artwork, beautiful clean lines, and everything's, what can I say, it's just beautiful. And still with the Mike Kaluta doing the Carson of Venus. And here he's Mike Kaluta is also doing the script, so, which is just an adaptation. And then the last one we're going to share here is issue number 55. That one was, what was it, 53? And this is issue 55. And still Joe Kubert cover. And still Murphy Anderson and Robert Kanigher writing the interior stuff. And he's still in pursuit, trying to find Miriam. And of course, Miriam is a character from the book who we never saw in the Gold Key Korak stories at all. So that is what I had to share with you this time for Korak, son of Tarzan. Gold Key and DC comics. All great Silver and Bronze Age jungle fun. Thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe. Do leave your comments down below. And remember, comics are art.